I had always tried to be the kind of man who could handle anything: big challenges, long hours, difficult situations. You name it, I could take it on. But nothing prepared me for what she said. I thought things were fine, maybe even better than fine. Her son, whom I had known since he was a little kid, had started looking up to me more than his real father. I had spent years stepping in, playing the role of a father figure where his biological dad had failed him. Sure, there was tension, always tension, because of her complicated history with me, but I believed in fighting for what's right. And I believed, foolishly, that we had built something strong. But when she looked me dead in the eye and told me, "You're not man enough to be a dad," it shattered everything. I don't think I understood what she was really saying at the time. It felt like an accusation, like everything I had done for her son, was worth nothing. But I still couldn't quite let go of the hope that maybe it wasn't as bad as it seemed. Maybe she was angry. Maybe we could work through it. After all, what kind of man just gives up on love and family? Not me. I wouldn't walk away, no matter how hard things got. But then the cracks began to deepen, and I was forced to face the truth. The truth about her. The truth about what she really thought of me. And about the love I thought I had been fighting for. Things got worse after that. She was cold. Distant. I tried to talk to her, tried to figure out where things went wrong. I always tried. But she pulled further and further away, as if the effort I had put in over the years had never meant anything. Her son, his name was Jake, he had always looked to me for support. I never complained. I didn't have kids of my own, and I loved him like he was my own. He had a hard time with his real father, a man who was always in and out of jail, always promising to change but never doing it. I had been there for him, picking him up after school, taking him to games, offering him advice when he needed it. I thought it was a natural thing. I thought I was doing what any decent man would do. But after what she said, I started to question everything. And that's when the phone call came. It was Jake, and his voice was tight, shaky, almost like he was holding back tears. "Hey," he said. "I need to talk to you." I could tell something was wrong, but I didn't expect it to be this. "Jake? What's going on?" I asked, my heart pounding in my chest. He was quiet for a moment, and then, he said the words that would change everything. "Dad's in jail. He's gone again. I don't know what to do." I froze. There it was. The truth. The one thing I had been trying to avoid. His real father, who had let him down so many times, was back in jail, and once again, it was up to me to pick up the pieces. But this time, I didn't know if I could. I didn't know if I had it in me anymore. The reality of the situation hit me like a ton of bricks. I had been the one who was there, the one who stepped in when no one else would, and yet she had the nerve to tell me I wasn't enough. That I wasn't man enough to be a dad. The very next day, I went to see Jake. He was sitting in his room, the walls covered in posters of bands and sports heroes, but all I saw was a kid who had been let down again. His eyes were empty, distant. He had that same look I had seen so many times in his father's eyes, the look of someone who had been abandoned, left behind, unimportant. I sat with him for hours. We talked about everything, about school, about the things he liked, about his dreams. And for the first time in a long time, I realized just how much I meant to him. I was the one he turned to when things got rough, when his own father wasn't there. I had always been there for him, even when I wasn't sure what I was doing or if I was doing it right. I didn't have any answers. I couldn't fix what was broken. But I could be there. And I could keep being there. And then, the text came. From her. "Jake's father wants to talk to him," she wrote. "He says he'll be out soon. You don't need to worry about him." Just like that. Just when I thought maybe I had a place in Jake's life, maybe I could finally step into the role I thought I was supposed to have, she shut me out. Again. She didn't care that I had stepped in, that I had been there when no one else would. She didn't care that Jake had called me, had trusted me, when his own father couldn't even be bothered to stay out of jail. I couldn't stop myself. The anger flared up again, a fire I couldn't contain. I called her. I called her and let her have it. Why can't you just let me be the father figure he needs? Why can't you just let me be there for him? She didn't answer right away. There was silence on the other end. And then, when she spoke, her voice was cold, flat, and unyielding. You were never meant to be his father. You were never enough. You're not man enough, she said, repeating the words that still cut me open. I slammed the phone down, the pain of her rejection ripping through me again. She didn't care. She never cared. But Jake? Jake mattered. And I wasn't going to give up on him. No matter what she said. I went back to his house that night. We didn't talk much. We just sat together. Sometimes you don't need words to make things right. Sometimes, all you need is to be there, to show up, even when the world tells you you're not enough. As for her, she could say whatever she wanted. She could keep pushing me away, keep pretending I wasn't a part of Jake's life. But she couldn't take away the bond we had. In the end, maybe I wasn't the man she wanted me to be. Maybe I wasn't the man she thought was man enough. But I was the man Jake needed. And that was all that mattered. It wasn't over. No matter how many times I tried to convince myself that I had reached the end of this twisted chapter, life had another curveball ready. A few weeks passed after that heated phone call, and just when I thought I could finally start picking up the pieces of my life, everything came crashing down again. It started with a message. A simple text from Jake. It was short, but it hit me like a freight train. He's out. I need to talk to you. Can you meet me at the park? At first, I thought nothing of it. Jake's biological father had been in and out of jail for most of his life, and every time he was released, it was just a matter of time before he screwed up again. But this time felt different. The urgency in Jake's message had me questioning everything. So, I got in my car and drove to the park, my heart heavy with anticipation. What was I walking into? I pulled into the parking lot, scanning the area for Jake. I saw him standing by the swings, his hands shoved into his jacket pockets, staring down at the ground. He looked like a kid who had just lost something important, maybe his hope. As I walked over to him, I could feel the weight of his eyes on me. He hadn't looked at me the way he was looking now, almost desperate, almost pleading. Jake? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. What's going on? He turned to face me, and for a second, I didn't recognize him. His eyes were red, his face pale. It was as if the world had just collapsed on him, and he wasn't sure how to hold himself together anymore. And I knew that this moment would define everything. I need your help, Jake said, his voice low, almost a whisper. I can't do this alone. I nodded, ready to offer whatever he needed. I had been there for him before, hell, I had been there when no one else had, and I wasn't going to turn my back now. I couldn't. I'm listening. What do you need? Jake took a deep breath before speaking. My dad, he's back. And this time, I don't know if I can handle it. He wants to be in my life again. But I don't trust him. And I don't want to go through this again. Not with him. I need you to help me. The words hit me like a blow. This wasn't just about his dad being out of jail. It was about the trauma Jake had lived through, the abandonment he had suffered every single time his father left him. It was about the fear in his voice, the fear of losing the one person who had always been there for him. Me. I put a hand on his shoulder, feeling the weight of his pain, and nodded. You're not alone, Jake. I'm here. I'll always be here. But as soon as those words left my mouth, the reality of the situation hit me. He wasn't asking me to play the role of a father figure again. He wasn't asking for me to just step in and fix everything. He was asking me to fight for him, fight against the man who had hurt him, who had abandoned him more times than anyone should have to count. And I knew then that the stakes were higher than ever. I had already given so much of myself to Jake, time, energy, love. I had done everything I could, but I realized this wasn't just about being there anymore. It wasn't just about comforting him through his pain. This time, It was about taking action. I had to protect him from the man who had caused so much damage, the man who could never be trusted, no matter how many times he promised to change. Jake's father had always been manipulative, playing the victim, trying to paint himself as the good guy whenever he was around. But Jake had seen through the lies, had seen the damage his father caused, and for the first time in his life, Jake wasn't going to let him back in. He wasn't going to let him destroy everything he had worked so hard to build with me. "I don't know how to stop him," Jake said, his voice breaking. "I don't know what to do. But I can't let him hurt me again. I can't let him hurt anyone else." I looked at him, my heart breaking for the boy I had watched grow up, the boy I had fought for, the boy who was now standing in front of me as a young man, trying to take control of his life. "You don't have to do this alone," I said, feeling the weight of those words settle in. "We'll figure this out together." The rest of the conversation was a blur. We talked about his father's past, the promises he'd broken, and how Jake didn't want to get caught up in the same cycle of disappointment and pain. He didn't want to be dragged back into his father's web of lies, and I couldn't blame him. But the more we talked, the more I realized just how deep this had all gone. This wasn't just about me being there for him anymore. This was about being the barrier between Jake and the man who had hurt him, about standing up for the son I had always wished I could have had, the son who needed me now more than ever. That's when I knew. I had to make a choice. I could walk away, keep my distance, let them figure things out for themselves. Or I could fight for Jake, fight for the life he deserved, fight for the future that was rightfully his. And that meant not just standing by him, but standing up to the man who had failed him time and time again. I chose to fight. I wasn't going to let Jake face this alone. I wasn't going to let him go through another round of disappointment and hurt, knowing that I could do something about it. I wasn't going to let her words, those cutting, spiteful words she had said, hold me back. I wasn't the man she said I wasn't. I was the man Jake needed me to be. I made the call. I contacted the authorities, made sure Jake's father stayed where he belonged, locked up, unable to hurt anyone again. And when that final blow hit, when Jake's father's fate was sealed, I realized something. I wasn't just man enough to be a dad. I was everything Jake needed. And that made everything worth it.